There is a profound art in reaching the hearts of those who, by nature or circumstance, hold their emotions at a distance. To understand the psychology of reconnection with avoidant souls is to glimpse a sacred dance of space and intimacy, of respect and invitation. It is not about rushing them back, nor about pleading for closeness, but about creating a sanctuary of safety that calls them gently home. Imagine for a moment the avoidant heart, not as cold or uncaring, but as one guarded fiercely against pain, a heart that fears engulfment, and so builds walls not out of cruelty, but as a divine act of self-preservation. To reach such a heart requires a language beyond force, one that speaks in calm, measured tones of respect and gentle invitation. Here lies the first message, a text that conveys presence without pressure. It whispers, "I am here," steady and patient, not to chase you, but to walk beside you when you are ready. This message does not demand answers. It does not fill the silence with anxious words. Instead, it creates a sacred space where the avoidant can begin to lower their guard, knowing that their freedom is honored, not threatened. Next comes the power of validation, a second text that does not seek to fix or change, but to understand and accept. To say, "I see your struggle, I honor your need for space, your feelings are real and they matter." In this sacred acknowledgement lies transformation. When a person feels truly seen, even in their distance, the walls begin to soften. Validation acts like a balm on weary souls, reminding them that vulnerability need not be met with judgment or fear, but with compassion and trust. This is not merely psychology, it is divine grace made manifest in words. And then, the third message, a spark of genuine curiosity offered without demand. When you feel ready, I'd love to hear about what's on your mind, at your own pace. This is an invitation to return not out of obligation, but from the natural unfolding of connection. It honors their autonomy, awakening the desire to share and be known in their own time. The wisdom here is profound. True reconnection blooms not from pressure, but from freedom. It is the difference between a cage and an open door. Underlying these messages is the sacred rhythm of timing. Just as the dawn does not force itself upon the night, so too must we learn patience in the art of reconnection. To rush is to risk shattering the fragile trust being rebuilt. To wait is to honor the divine unfolding of healing. This patience, often the most difficult virtue, holds a transformative power. It teaches us that love is not possession, but a sacred space in which the other may freely return. So if you seek to bridge the distance with those who hold back, remember these truths. Be present without intrusion, validate without judgment, invite with curiosity, and above all, honor the sacred rhythm of their journey. In this way, the avoidant heart may feel safe enough to come back, not because they are compelled, but because they are welcomed, respected, and loved in their fullness. In the dance of reconnection, wisdom and divine principle guide our steps, teaching us that true safety is not created by holding tight, but by holding space. And in that space, miracles quietly unfold. To truly connect with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, it is essential to first understand the intricate emotional landscape they inhabit. Avoidance is not simply a choice made lightly or a form of indifference. Rather, it is a deep-rooted response born out of the need to protect oneself from emotional overwhelm, vulnerability, or past experiences of hurt and rejection. Those with avoidant tendencies often develop an internal narrative where closeness is synonymous with loss of autonomy, where intimacy feels like a threat rather than a gift. This is not a flaw or failure in character, but a survival mechanism, a sacred, if painful way they have learned to navigate the world, to maintain a fragile sense of safety. At the core of this attachment style lies a paradox. the desire for connection coupled with an equally strong urge to maintain distance. The avoidant individual yearns for love and acceptance, but fears the engulfment or loss of self that may come with it. This tension creates a push-pull dynamic in relationships, where withdrawal becomes a form of self-protection. Understanding this tension is crucial because it reframes their avoidance not as rejection or disinterest, but as a protective cloak wrapped around a sensitive and often wounded spirit. Recognizing this truth invites a profound shift in how we approach communication with avoidance. Instead of responding with frustration, confusion, or attempts to pull them closer, by intensifying demands or emotions, we learn to meet them with patience and empathy. This means embracing a communication style that respects their boundaries, acknowledges their fears, and allows space for their emotional process without judgment. The wisdom here is that safety for an avoidant person is not created through pressure or insistence, but through the subtle, steady presence of calm understanding. The way we speak to avoidants must be deliberate and infused with an awareness of their internal world. Messages laden with urgency or emotional intensity tend to trigger their defense mechanisms, causing them to retreat further. Instead, communication that is gentle, measured, and non-threatening fosters a sense of security. It's like standing on the shore, quietly waiting for a wary swimmer to feel comfortable enough to return to the water, rather than diving in recklessly and scaring them away. This is the essence of creating safety, a calm, non-intrusive presence that says, "I am here, not to consume you, but to walk alongside you." Moreover, understanding the avoidant's need for autonomy leads us to appreciate that control is not the enemy, but a sacred aspect of their healing. They need to feel they are the masters of their own emotional space. Offering texts that convey respect for their pace, that acknowledge their right to space without guilt or pressure, becomes a powerful invitation to lower their defenses. These communications are not empty words. They are the foundation stones of trust being rebuilt. Each respectful message acts as a gentle reinforcement that they will not be overwhelmed or coerced, but met with acceptance on their terms. This approach also demands a high level of self-awareness and inner calm from the person reaching out. When we understand the avoidant attachment style, we recognize that our own impulses to seek reassurance, to fill silence, to bridge the gap, must be tempered with patience. We become guardians of the space, holding it sacred, knowing that the process of reconnection is not linear but fluid. Sometimes, silence itself becomes a form of communication, a silent promise of availability without demand. In essence, the psychology of reconnection with avoidance calls us to embrace a form of love that is quiet, steady, and respectful. It is love that does not insist on immediate closeness, but honors the protective walls as temporary and necessary. This kind of love is transformative because it mirrors a divine principle. True safety arises not from force but from freedom, not from control but from respect. When we truly understand this, our words become vessels of healing, and our presence becomes a sanctuary where even the most cautious hearts can find the courage to return. When reaching out to someone with an avoidant attachment style, one of the most powerful tools we can wield is the power of non-intrusive presence. This concept goes far beyond mere physical or digital availability. It is a deeply intentional way of communicating that embodies calmness, respect for boundaries, and emotional neutrality. It is an approach that honors the delicate balance avoidant individuals seek between connection and independence, allowing them to feel safe rather than pressured or overwhelmed. Avoidant individuals often interpret intense emotional engagement or urgent communication as a threat to their autonomy. Their protective mechanism is to retreat, to distance themselves when they feel cornered or emotionally invaded. Thus, the way we choose to reach out must be carefully calibrated, not too hot to ignite their fears, yet warm enough to signal genuine care. The power lies in subtlety. A text message that is simple, calm, and free of demands can convey presence without triggering the instinct to flee. Imagine the contrast between a message loaded with anxious questions, emotional appeals, or urgent demands for explanation, and a message that simply says, "I'm thinking of you and here when you're ready." The latter carries an unspoken promise: you are free to respond in your own time, with no pressure, no judgment. This space is precious for the avoidant because it does not ask them to dismantle their walls before they are ready. Instead, it gently invites them to open a door, even if only a crack, when the time feels right. The emotional neutrality in these messages is key. Neutrality doesn't mean coldness or indifference. Rather, it means a tone that neither escalates nor diminishes emotions, but accepts them as they are. Avoidants often struggle with intense emotional displays, fearing that such expressions will engulf them or demand more than they can give. A message that is steady and unassuming helps to create an environment where emotions can be observed without judgment or pressure. It says, "I see you, I respect your space, and I am here without expectation." This kind of communication mirrors a divine principle of sacred presence. Just as the universe holds space for all things to exist in their own time and way, so too can our interactions embody this principle. The power of non-intrusive presence is a form of reverence for the other's journey. It acknowledges that healing and reconnection cannot be rushed or forced, but must unfold naturally within the rhythms of individual experience. Importantly, non-intrusive presence also nurtures trust. When someone consistently experiences messages that are calm, respectful, and non-demanding, their defenses begin to soften. They learn that connection does not mean loss of self, that reaching out does not mean being trapped. Over time, this steady presence builds a foundation where vulnerability feels safer, and the possibility of deeper intimacy becomes less daunting. Furthermore, the power of this presence extends beyond words alone. It's a posture of being that can be felt through tone, timing, and consistency. For example, sending a simple neutral message at a moment when the avoidant person is not overwhelmed by other pressures can make a significant difference. The timing becomes a sacred element, demonstrating awareness and respect for their emotional state. Consistency, too, matters. Knowing that this calm, respectful presence is reliable creates a sense of stability that is often missing in avoidant relationships. It's essential to understand that non-intrusive presence does not mean disengagement or passive waiting. Instead, it is an active form of love expressed through restraint and patience. It requires the sender to hold their own anxieties and impulses with grace, trusting that genuine connection emerges not through force, but through gentle invitation. This discipline is transformative because it shifts the dynamic from one of chasing and fear to one of mutual respect and freedom. Ultimately, the power of non-intrusive presence is a healing balm for avoidant hearts. It dismantles the misconception that connection demands sacrifice of autonomy. Instead, it offers a sacred space where the individual can slowly and safely explore the possibility of coming back. This principle, rooted deeply in psychological insight and spiritual wisdom, teaches us that the path to reconnection is not paved with demands or emotional intensity, but with patience, respect, and the steady light of calm presence. In this light, walls begin to soften, and the journey toward healing and closeness becomes possible. In the delicate process of reconnecting with someone who exhibits avoidant attachment, affirmation and validation emerge as powerful forces of healing and trust. These two elements act like gentle rays of light, penetrating the often thick walls of self-protection that avoidants build to shield themselves from emotional pain. Understanding the significance of offering genuine affirmation and heartfelt validation requires a shift from trying to fix or change to simply witnessing and honoring the person's experience with compassion and respect. Avoidant individuals typically harbor deep fears that their emotions or needs will be misunderstood, dismissed, or judged. These fears create a natural tendency to retreat and protect their inner world rather than expose it. When their feelings are met with invalidation, whether through criticism, minimization, or impatience, their defenses harden even further. On the other hand, when they encounter affirmation, something subtle yet profound occurs. Affirmation says, "Your feelings are real, your experience matters, and you are worthy of respect." This message, when sincerely conveyed, reaches beyond words and touches a fundamental human need, to be seen and accepted as we truly are. Validation goes hand in hand with affirmation, but moves a step deeper. It involves recognizing and acknowledging the emotions behind the behaviors without judgment or attempts to redirect them. For avoidance, validation means someone else is willing to hold their feelings with gentle acceptance. Even if those feelings seem complicated or uncomfortable, it does not require agreement or approval, but rather the willingness to say, "I understand that this is how you feel, and that is okay." This simple act fosters a powerful sense of safety and belonging, because it communicates that their inner world will not be rejected or punished. Offering affirmation and validation is not about enabling avoidance or dismissing challenges in the relationship. Instead, it is about creating a secure, emotional foundation upon which real connection can be built. When avoidant individuals feel that their feelings are accepted rather than contested, they are less likely to feel threatened and more likely to lower their defenses. This openness is the fertile soil from which genuine intimacy and trust can grow. The tone and wording of texts that embody affirmation and validation are crucial. They must be crafted with sincerity and thoughtfulness. Phrases that recognize autonomy, such as "I respect your need for space," or "It's okay to take your time," demonstrate understanding without pressure. Similarly, acknowledging the difficulty they might be experiencing, "I can imagine this has been hard for you," shows empathy and care. These expressions communicate respect for the person's emotional process and reinforce that their experience is honored rather than dismissed. It's important to note that affirmation and validation are also reflective practices. They require the sender to be present and attentive, tuning in not only to the words, but to the emotions behind them. This active listening allows for a response that feels genuine and grounded rather than formulaic. The divine principle here is one of presence, being fully with another without rushing to judgment or solution, simply allowing space for what is. Another profound effect of validation is its ability to counteract the internalized messages avoidants often carry, messages that they must hide their feelings, suppress vulnerability, or manage everything alone. When someone else acknowledges their struggles and affirms their worthiness despite these challenges, it offers a reframing of their internal narrative. This reframing is transformative, planting seeds of self-acceptance and courage to be more open. In relationships marked by avoidance, the act of validation also invites reciprocity over time. As avoidants begin to trust that their feelings will be met with acceptance, they may gradually feel safer to share more deeply. This creates a cycle of mutual understanding and emotional safety that strengthens the bond and fosters healing on both sides. Ultimately, affirmation and validation are acts of love rooted in respect and compassion. They honor the inherent dignity of the avoidant individual and create a sacred container where vulnerability is met with acceptance. This is not merely a psychological tactic, but a profound expression of divine grace, the willingness to see and hold another's truth without condition. When practiced sincerely, these messages become bridges over the distance, transforming isolation into connection and fear into trust. Engaging someone with an avoidant attachment style requires a delicate balance between offering connection and respecting their need for autonomy. One of the most effective ways to invite reconnection without triggering defensiveness is through genuine low-stakes curiosity. This approach invites openness by focusing on authentic interest in the person's thoughts and experiences, rather than demanding emotional explanations or immediate intimacy. It creates a safe space where avoidants can feel seen and valued without feeling overwhelmed or pressured. Curiosity, when expressed with sincerity and care, acts as a gentle bridge. It signals that you want to understand the other person's inner world, not to judge or change it, but simply to appreciate it. For avoidants, who often fear losing control or being engulfed by emotions, this kind of curiosity can feel like a breath of fresh air. It offers an invitation to share on their own terms, at their own pace, and about topics that feel manageable and interesting rather than threatening or invasive. The key to this approach lies in asking questions or making observations that are open-ended and exploratory, rather than confrontational or urgent. Instead of pressing for explanations about feelings or demanding reasons for distance, curiosity-based messages might focus on what is happening in the avoidant's daily life, thoughts, or interests. For example, a message like, "I've been wondering how you've been spending your time lately," or "I'd love to hear your thoughts on something I came across," gently invites dialogue without setting expectations for emotional depth or vulnerability immediately. This method respects the avoidant's need for control while subtly encouraging engagement. It shifts the focus from the anxiety around emotional connection to the natural human desire to be understood and heard. By creating a conversation around curiosity rather than confrontation, you provide a safer pathway for avoidants to begin lowering their defenses. It allows them to participate in a dialogue where their voice matters and their autonomy is preserved. Curiosity also embodies a spirit of humility and openness. It acknowledges that we do not have all the answers and that the other person's perspective is valuable. This openness contrasts sharply with dynamics where one partner tries to fix or analyze the other's behavior, which often leads to resistance and withdrawal. Instead, curiosity says, "I'm here to learn about you, not to change you." This stance can be deeply disarming for avoidants, who often anticipate criticism or pressure when it comes to emotional matters. Additionally, the timing and tone of curiosity-based outreach matters significantly. When the invitation to share feels spontaneous but not urgent, avoidants are more likely to respond positively. The tone should be light, respectful, and free from expectation, reinforcing that there is no pressure to answer immediately or in depth. This creates a gentle rhythm of communication that respects the other person's readiness to engage. This practice of inviting connection through curiosity is also an act of faith in the natural unfolding of relationships and the inherent desire within people to connect when conditions are safe. It is a recognition that connection is not a matter of force, but of invitation and mutual willingness. By leaning into curiosity, we align ourselves with this deeper truth and open the door for reconnection to arise authentically. Moreover, curiosity serves as a powerful antidote to the isolation that avoidance can foster. It invites avoidance out of silence and into conversation, not by demanding but by genuinely wanting to know their story. Over time, these moments of sharing can build emotional safety and trust, making the possibility of deeper intimacy less daunting. In essence, using curiosity to engage avoidance honors the divine principle of respect for free will and timing. It balances the human need for connection with the equally important need for autonomy, creating a sacred space where walls can gradually come down. This approach transforms the act of reaching out from a potentially threatening demand into a loving, open-hearted inquiry, one that gently encourages avoidants to step closer when they feel ready, supported by the knowledge that they will be received with patience and understanding. In the delicate dance of reconnection, timing and patience emerge as sacred tools that can transform the possibility of reunion into a reality. For those who carry an avoidant attachment style, the process of opening up and returning to closeness is rarely swift or straightforward. It unfolds in its own rhythm, guided by unseen inner currents of readiness, trust, and healing. Recognizing and honoring this natural timing is an act of profound wisdom and love, one that respects the autonomy of the other person and the sacred flow of emotional reconciliation. Timing, in this context, is not merely about choosing the right moment to send a message or initiate contact. It is a deeper awareness of the other person's emotional landscape and the internal readiness that cannot be rushed or forced. Avoidant individuals often need extended periods of space to process their feelings, manage their fears, and rebuild their sense of safety. Attempting to accelerate this process with frequent or demanding contact only intensifies their instinct to withdraw further. True timing involves listening beyond words, sensing when the other's heart is open even in the smallest measure, and responding with gentle presence. Patience complements this timing as a divine principle, a virtue that invites us to surrender our urgency and control in the service of healing. It asks us to trust the process, even when it feels slow, uncertain, or frustrating. Patience teaches us to hold space without grasping, to wait without resentment, and to love without conditions. This is no small task. It requires inner strength and humility, a recognition that our desire for connection cannot override another's need for safety. When we practice patience, we align ourselves with a sacred flow that honors the individuality of the healing journey. We understand that emotional wounds mend in their own time, that walls built for protection cannot be torn down overnight, and that genuine reconnection is not a prize to be won but a gift to be received. This shift from expectation to acceptance opens the door for trust to grow, trust that the other person will come forward when they are truly ready, not out of obligation but out of a renewed sense of safety and willingness. Moreover, the interplay of timing and patience is a form of respect for the other's autonomy and boundaries. It acknowledges that healing is not linear and that setbacks are natural. When we resist the urge to impose our timeline, we create a sacred container where the avoidant individual can feel secure enough to explore vulnerability without fear of judgment or pressure. This container is fertile ground for the slow but steady rebuilding of intimacy. This principle also reminds us that our own emotions must be tended with care. Patience requires us to hold ours, disappointments, and desires with compassion. It invites self-reflection and self-regulation so that our reaching out comes from a place of centeredness rather than desperation. In doing so, we become steady beacons of calm and reliability, qualities that avoidants often crave but find difficult to trust. The sacredness of timing is also reflected in the way we respond to signs of openness. Even the smallest gestures of engagement, a brief reply, a softened tone, a willingness to share, should be met with gentle encouragement and not rushed escalation. Recognizing and honoring these moments allows the avoidant to feel seen and valued, reinforcing their courage to step closer. Over time, these incremental steps weave a tapestry of renewed connection, built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. In the grander view, the wisdom of timing and patience echoes universal truths about the nature of growth and transformation. Just as a seed does not force itself to bloom, and the dawn does not hurry the night away, so too must emotional healing unfold in its own sacred rhythm. To attempt to control or speed this process is to miss the beauty of its natural emergence. Ultimately, embracing timing and patience is an act of love in its highest form. Love that honors freedom, honors the other's pace, and trusts in the mystery of reconciliation. It is a profound reminder that true connection is not about possession or immediate fulfillment, but about creating the conditions in which hearts can safely meet again. When we surrender to this divine rhythm, we participate in a healing process that is transformative not only for the avoidant individual but for ourselves as well, opening the way for deeper compassion, understanding, and genuine intimacy. Thank you for your time and openness, wishing you peace and strength on your journey ahead. Goodbye for now, and may your path be filled with light and connection. In the journey of reconnecting with those who carry avoidant hearts, we learn that true safety and closeness are not forged by force or urgency, but by honoring the sacred balance of space and presence. Through gentle, respectful communication, offering calm presence, genuine validation, curious invitation, and patient timing, we create a sanctuary where trust can quietly grow. This sacred dance teaches us that love is not about possession or control, but about holding space for freedom, allowing hearts to return in their own time, and embracing the profound grace in that unfolding. Thank you for listening with an open heart. May you walk forward with patience, wisdom, and compassion as you nurture the connections that matter most. Goodbye for now, and may your journey be blessed with peace and meaningful reconnection.